Have you ever wondered how people connect cowboy chord strums with fills so seamlessly? In this video, I'm going to give you a practical guide on how to do just that. The good news is that it's simple. The bad news is that simple isn't always easy. My name's Cade, and I'm a self-taught professional guitarist, and in this video, I'm going to show you how one shape can bridge the gap between chords and fills. And there's a good chance that you already know this shape. So, put your guitar in your hands and let's get ready. Part 1, minor, common pentatonic. Now, what I'm about to teach you is universally regarded as one of the most important light bulb moments for all musicians, but especially guitarists. Now, you might already be familiar with the so-called minor pentatonic shape, but here it is just in case. And if we map that shape on to the 5th fret right here with 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8, that gives us the A minor pentatonic shape. And it's A minor because of this 5th fret right here is E, F, G, A, minor pentatonic. Now I'm on a quest to rename this shape from the minor pentatonic to the common pentatonic, and here's why. That shape is only minor if we think about that note right there in the scale as the root note or the home position note. But there's actually a major pentatonic that we can access with that exact same shape, because for every minor scale, there's a major scale that contains all of the exact same notes, and this works for pentatonic as well. And these minor and major scales that share the same notes are called relative majors and minors. All we have to do is change where we're thinking about the root. So if we're thinking about this note right here as our low root for the minor shape, we can think about this next note in that pattern as our major root. And then this exact shape becomes a major pentatonic of whatever note that is. So this is an A minor pentatonic because that note is an A, and it's an E, F, G, A, B, C major pentatonic if we think about that as the root. Now there's actually an easy hack to figure out which keys are relative majors and minors, and for that we're going to use our circle of fifths. Now we can see that this circle is actually two concentric circles with major chords on the top and minor chords on the bottom. And the only thing you need to do to find the relative majors and minors is to look at the stacks. The ones that appear right above and below each other are relatives: C and A minor, G and E minor, A flat and F minor. These sets contain the exact same notes. So I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about the pentatonic? Isn't that for playing licks up the neck? We're trying to play fills with open chords. Well, stay with me because this brings us into part 2, common pentatonic in open position. Now the reason that we're talking about the pentatonic scale, that mother of all licks, is that licks and fills are the exact same thing. So all we're going to do is we're going to take that familiar shape, we're going to slide it up here, and all of those first finger positions are just going to become the open positions that the nut is fretting for us. So all we have to fret is the bottom position. So we have open 3, open 2, open 2, open 2, open 3, open 3. Now, if you were an in-person student, I would stop right here and I would say, now what major and minor pentatonic are we playing if we play that shape in open position? And since you're my student and you're awesome, you would say, well, we're playing E minor pentatonic because this open note root is an E, and we're playing G major pentatonic because that note right there is a G, and those are our relative majors and minors. Now let's go back to this idea that licks equal fills. I'm going to write a basic lick in the key of C major using that pentatonic scale. Then we're going to transpose that lick, and transpose just means to change key of something to open position. So let's start here, C major pentatonic, which again is the same as the A minor pentatonic. Let's write a very basic lick, something like this. Now let's transpose that to G major. So we're just going to take the same notes in that scale and just reapply them up here. So that same lick in open position is, that's in C, and that's in G. Okay, that's pretty cool, but now let's see what happens if we put that lick next to some open position chords. And since we transposed that lick to G, let's play a G chord next to it. just like that, that lick has become a perfectly good open position fill for a G chord. All right, so I want to give you a basic exercise so that you can start taking ownership over this idea. I want you to get out your metronome, and yes, definitely, please, for the love of God, use a metronome for this, because the absolute biggest pitfall is getting this done in time. It's not a matter of finger dexterity. Most of what we're doing technique-wise is not terribly difficult, but it's a matter of figuring out how to fit it within the beats of the song. So set your metronome somewhere nice and slow. I'm gonna set mine at 60, and we're gonna be thinking in 4/4 time. That means 4 beats per measure. For the first 2 beats of each measure, I want you to just strum that G chord. For the second 2 beats of that measure, I want you to use this open position pentatonic as a playground. Now the name of the game here is simple. I don't want you trying to squeeze as many notes as you can in here, because the most important thing that's gonna happen in this exercise is locking in to the downbeat of the next measure. The downbeat is the 1 in that 4/4 measure. Treat that like a really, really important doctor's appointment. They've called you and told you if you're late for that appointment, you have to reschedule. You don't want to deal with that. You need to be on time for that appointment. So let's set the metronome at 60 and see what happens here. 2, ready, and 1, 2. Practice going down, practice going up. And this takes us to our final part 3 here, applying this idea to songs. But first, a brief word from our sponsor. I'm so excited to announce that I have officially begun production on my cowboy chord masterclass. In this course, I cover everything you need to know to get the most out of cowboy chords, including basic fundamental theory. I daylight as an English professor, and if I can get a group of college freshmen to understand compound predicates, then I can get you to understand basic music theory. If you'd like to sign up for my newsletter to receive early access as well as discount pricing, please comment down below "nothing to lose." I promise I'm way too lazy to send out anything more than once a month, if that. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming. So at this point you might be saying to yourself, well, cool, I can play a fill over a G chord, I could play a fill over the relative minor, E minor, but that's fairly limiting. Well, here's the best part. The pentatonic of the key center works over every chord in that key. So if you're playing in the key of E minor or G, and if you're playing home position chords, there's a good chance you are, then this scale will work over every single chord you play, your C, your A minor, your B minor. So let's do an exercise now, putting these fills over actual progressions. But this time we're gonna add a little bit of structure to it to start sounding a little bit more musical and intentional. So our progression is gonna be G, E minor, C, D. This is a 1-6-4-5 in G, very common progression. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna play each chord for one measure. We're gonna do the same idea of strumming it and then answering with a fill, but we're gonna keep this fill very, very simple, and we're gonna do the exact same fill for the first 3 chords. When we get to the D, we're gonna answer that fill with a very simple variation of it, okay? And that's gonna give it this feeling of resolution. So let's go back to 60 and see what that looks like. Slight variation, very simple, but it gives it a feeling of intention and of movement. Now, the next thing I say might be the most important part of this lesson. Do not wait for a song or a chord chart to tell you to play a fill. Fills, licks, arpeggios, triads, various voicings, all of these different ways to approach chords, these are our individual fingerprints as guitarists, and all of these decisions that we make are what define our style. So if the song that you're playing doesn't have a fill over the 3rd measure of the 2nd verse in the studio recording, who cares? This is your version of the song, and in your badass version, there is a fill right there. Now really, there are dozens of ways to think about how to write and play fills in open position, and this is just one of them. But honestly, this common pentatonic in open position is probably the foundation of 70% of what I do up here, so get very, very comfortable with it. I hope that you got something out of this lesson. Truly, my main purpose with all of this is to encourage people to just have more fun with this thing. So if you did learn how to have a little bit more fun with this, please like, comment, subscribe, share. All that stuff helps out a ton. And I want to thank you so much for inviting me into your home today, and I hope you invite me back again.